Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to The Dream Giver, a series that we hope will take the dream that's in your heart, unlock the lock that perhaps has kept it in prison, and sets it free. But right now I want to move to stage number 4. Let's see if we can't review where we've been in this dream panorama. In the next section, in the next part of this series, I'm going to show you the island of the dream. You're actually going to see a picture of a land of the dream, and I'm going to show it to you. But right now, I want to use words. We talked about this as the beginning place. This is the dream. This is what I long to do inside of my heart. That dream is in me, but the dream exists over there. When I get up and I start to pursue my dream, I find out it's not in the place where I'm in today. Obviously, it's over there. And it's always a large dream. It always overwhelms the person, and it's beyond my comfort zone. And if this was my comfort zone, this is where I'm relaxed. This is where I am used to doing things. And the comfort zone has an edge to it. It's the limit of where I've gone to this point. And the dream is always on the other side of that comfort zone. And therefore, we face something uncomfortable here. In fact, it's called the wall of fear. And unless you break through the wall of fear because you want the dream enough, you'll be trapped by your own walls. We all do this. We build walls of protection higher and higher and higher and higher because we don't want anybody to shake up our lives. We want to be in control of our lives, and we want to be secure, safe, unrattled, and just here with the TV. Click, click. And sometimes it's pretty hard to break through the wall that we build to remain comfortable because we value comfort more than our dream. Well, this whole issue of comfort and the dream being so far away, why do you think that's the way it is? No matter who I speak to, if this represented the dream, well, let's make this represent the dream. It's easier to see. Here's the book. If this represented the dream, why is the dream in everybody's heart not way over here? You know, I've yet to find somebody who said it's right here. It never is. It's always way over there. Why is that? Why does it overwhelm us? Why doesn't the dream giver make it simpler and say, just take a baby step from here to here and it'll be okay? I wondered about that for a long time until I was having lunch in Virginia. And I was talking to a man who has a PhD in leadership development. And he's been a trainer of leaders for 20-some years. And I said to him, what's the single greatest secret you've learned about how to create a leader? And he looked at me and smiled and said, well, it's not books. Okay. It's not courses. It's not. It's not TV series. It's not. Nope. What is it? What's the single greatest secret you've learned? He said this. If you take a person, he didn't use the word comfort zone. He says, you take them out of what they're used to doing and throw them way far away from what they're used to and what they think they can do, and you put them over here so they gotta swim or sink. That's how you make a leader. And I thought to myself, he got that from the dream giver. Because that's what God forces you and me to do. I said, what's the second greatest secret? He said, leave the person in the role that they have, but bring something that they can't do yet into their role and make them responsible for it. Don't give them something they know how to do. Give them something way beyond them. And he said the greatest leaders are those people that go from here to there repeatedly in their life. Either somebody who's their leader does this to them, or they understand the principle and they force themselves to jump way over, whoa, and you actually embrace that which you know you can't do yet. And then you embrace another one, and you embrace another one. Well, at the edge of this comfort zone are other people's comfort zones. They just kind of overlap ours. That is, if your dream that we're talking about is toward something in your business, and you are, let's call you a vice president of something, And then here are the people that all work for you and report to you in one way or another, either directly or indirectly. And you start talking about changing a lot of things, because a dream changes things. And as you talk about doing this, then everything else that everybody's all secure in doing is going to rattle their cage. And their comfort zone overlaps yours. Now, let's say down a few layers, a person's not that directly involved with this or this, it's going to be so-so. But somebody who's directly involved, their comfort zone really overlaps yours. So as you start talking about this, you start sending out a memo, your comfort zone shakes because you're uncomfortable, because you've never done that either, and you're unsure of yourself. And the people that overlap yours, they're uncomfortable. So what begins to happen is you make the people uncomfortable because you're uncomfortable. You shake up somebody else's life, and nobody, including you and including me, likes somebody to mess with their comfort zone. Nobody likes it. And we have an immediate emotional response to stop. That's our reaction. What are you talking about? And there are people around this border in every direction. Let's say this is your family. And you start talking about something that completely changes the family, and it's way out there. Our family overlaps us a lot, and therefore it shakes everybody's life. Maybe this is another territory here with your friends or your church. Around the corners of our comfort zone are people who overlap, and those are the people who react one way or another when you think about changing and following your dream. We talked about last time that the number one reason why people don't follow their dream is the comfort zone, the wall of fear. When I've taught all these 7 stages to people in various countries of the world, and I ask them, what's the number 2 reason why most people don't follow their dream? This is it. And when I think about this, and I want a perspective of it, I think of the word a human blockade. Because they all may be casual, and they're doing their own thing, and then, they can sense, oh no, this is going to mess up our lives. And without even talking to each other, they gang up on you right here. Let's say this is you. And they gang right here as you're about ready to step across the line. No, really, this is not a good idea. Where are we going to get the money? And they give you all these reasons. And because you haven't done it yet, you're not sure, you're not really very secure, you're wanting affirmation. And the human blockade doesn't give you affirmation, because if they say this is a great idea, that means you're really going to mess up with my life. So there is a blockade that is here. Now, there's a pitfall here. Here's a pitfall. There's a couple of them. Pitfall 1. You've probably been working on this dream for a while, and you finally get enough courage to break through your wall of fear. And you're just coming down off, I'm going to do this. And you're expecting that the people are going to be believers in your dream. That they're going to come around you and say, that's a really good idea. I mean, that's terrific. I really believe you can do it. In fact, I'll help you. So we think that people who are around us, especially the people who love us and care for us, will all come around and embrace our dream. And the truth of it is, they don't. And it catches us off guard, doesn't it? Because we say, of all people who should understand, it is you. When I talk to a whole group of teenagers, I ask them the question, who's the biggest problem at the borderland of your life? Do you know they almost all said the same 2 words in unison? They said, my was that ever sad moment? Because of all the people in the world who are the guardians of another person's dream, the protector of the dream, the nurturer of the dream, the lover of the dream, the enabler of the dream, the pushing out of the way, come on, you can do, it's the parent. And yet, from the teenager's point of view, the person who stabs a dream, who says you can't, that's stupid to do, you'll never do it. You remember what your sister did, she couldn't do it either. And I remember when you were 4, you talked about this is a dumb idea. And of all the people who have the most influence over a child, it's the parent. So, if I were to talk to your kids for a minute and say, how do your parents deal with your dream? What would they say? Second pitfall I want you to think about is, we're talking about this in general terms, but I want you to know something, and I think if you just thought back for a minute, or maybe you're in the middle of borderland, this is not an enjoyable time. This can be bruising to you and to me. Emotionally bruising. Because dreams are personal and private, and they're the essence of who we are and the way that we are. And when we're fragile, moving in this direction, and somebody attacks the dream, you get bruised. You get hurt. And that hurt and the comfort zone fear, those two words, fear and hurt, make us retreat. And there are people you and I know that there may be 1 or 2 people here at the borderland who've had overwhelming influence over us all of our life. 2 weeks ago from today. I don't know if it was today, but it was 2 weeks ago. I was being interviewed by somebody who's got a large media organization. And as soon as I saw this person, I saw a different way they walked. I noticed a different way they talked. And I saw a difference in their eyes. And we sat down across the microphone, and I said to this person, something's changed since the last time I was here. You're a different person. And I spent 5 minutes with her. That's it. And she said, her eyes just lit up. She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm not sure what I mean, but I see a big difference since the last time we talked. And she said, you remember we talked about that person who always was pushing against my dream? I said, yeah, that's been a long time, hasn't it? 20 years. 20 years? She said, I let this person manipulate me because she threatened to reject me, and I wanted her acceptance so long, so much, that I constantly ran back in a corner because I didn't want to lose her by not doing what she wanted me to do, that I didn't follow my dream. I said, we talked about this last time I was here, didn't we? Yeah. I said, last time we were here, you weren't willing to deal with this. You valued this person's opinion of you more than the dream in your heart. Yes, I did. I said, what happened? She said, I got so low, and the years were passing by. I finally said to this person, you know, you may not agree with me, and you may stop liking me as your friend, but from today onward, I am pursuing the dream. I said to her, what happened? She said, I was let out of prison. I'm a different person. Do you realize the power of person at the border? And do you realize you're a person at every border's border too? So there's a bruising. Now, some principles. Number one, this borderland is inhabited by people called the Border Patrol. And the Border Patrol are living their lives normally until you start to follow the dream or a new dream or an enlarged dream. And then the trumpet is sounded, and they all gather at the one spot you're about ready to break, and they start giving you reactions why you can't do this. Now, there's one group of people who come over here. There's 3 groups of people. There's one group of people, and I don't even know how to, they bully you back. They push you back by the words, by their, what? It's so stupid. The body language, their words, their avoidance of you. When are you going to start thinking straight? That is a stupid idea. I call those your border bullies. They bully you backwards. That's the majority of the people. Second kind of people around the borderland and the border patrol are those people who aren't your bullies, they're your friends. And they don't kill your dream, they're your border buddies. They kind of, in a sense, put their arm around you and say, you know what, this is going to be okay. I'm with you. They don't help you, they don't hurt you, they're just there. Then there's every once in a while, not too often, another kind of person. They're worth their weight in gold. They come over and they look inside of you and they may ask you a few questions. They're trying to test, are you following your dream or are you doing something because somebody else wants you to do it? It's a big difference. I remember talking to a 45-year-old attorney. He was an unhappy man. And he wanted to talk and I kept trying to find out what was the matter. And finally he says, I hate what I do. I said, well then, why are you doing it? Because my dad is a lawyer, and his dad is a lawyer, and he told me since a little boy, I'm going to follow in his footsteps and I'm going to be a lawyer. I said, well, what did you want to do? He said, oh, I wanted to be a musician. I'm a really good musician. I hate my job. That's one arrogant, selfish father. And it's one foolish 45-year-old son. Because if you live somebody else's dream, you're going to live not a dream but a nightmare. And you and I know people who didn't follow their dream, so they try to stuff it on somebody else and live vicariously through somebody else. Don't let them do that to you. And don't you ever do that to someone else. And these other third, not the bullies, not the buddies, but these are people that come along, make sure you're following your dream. They put their arm around you and they kick open the door and say, come on, I'm coming with you and I can help open these doors to you. I call these border busters. They're the ones who set you free. Now, this issue, I want you to think for a minute. Who's the biggest border bully you've ever had in your life? What did they say to you? How did they turn you back? What did they do? Can you think of who it was? Let me see if somebody can. I'll tell you what. How about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come on up here for a minute. I need a dreamer. Oh, good. She's the dreamer. You're the dreamer. Come on, dreamer. Okay. Now, she's standing right here. And I'm going to use this microphone. Now, she has just started whispering about the dream. And I want you all to be a border bully. I want you to be the mother. You're a bully. All right? I want you to be the older sister. I want you to be the envious best friend. I want you to be the boss who lives in the word of no. No. I want you to be the uncle who's an alcoholic and who's abusive. And I want you to be the boyfriend. Wow! Oh! Down. So, I want you to be the boyfriend who, in no way, you are threatened by her dream. You are threatened by her dream. Got it? As soon as you know what you'd say, pick up this microphone and go do your border bully to her. All right. Tell us who you are again.
I'm the sister. And look, we had this agreement long ago that we were going to do this thing. We were going to have the family business, and we were going to go together, and we were going to pick up the business. And you can't go. You can't do that because we have a trust in each other, and we have an agreement. And you can't do it. I won't let you. We're not going to.
That's real. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. Very disappointed. All of a sudden, I felt smaller. She very much devalued me.
Ooh.
I felt very powerful. You're not going to do it. She's not going to do it.
That was really good. Stand back here for a minute. Who's next? Anybody? And tell us who you are as you come.
I am your boss. And being that you work for me, and your proposals, don't cut it. You're to do what you're told to do, no more, and no. That is it. Do you understand me? Thank you.
Wow! Come back here. I'm sweating for you. What were you feeling?
I want to bury myself.
You want to bury yourself. And what happened to your dream that was in your heart?
Yeah, it's gone. Why would I even dare stand up against that?
Wow. You think that happens very often with bosses?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very much.
Very much. No wonder people don't follow their dream. Tell us who you are.
I'm your uncle. You keep saying you're going to do things. You never follow through. I don't know. You never finish anything. When are you going to get something done with your life? What is going on? You won't do this either.
Very good. What was going through your mind right there?
Yeah, he's my family, and he's supposed to be supportive, and what is that? It's just, yeah, not good, not good.
Not good, not good. Very good. Mom's coming next.
Hi, honey.
Hold that microphone up.
You have, bless your heart, you have just had so much going on. You are my baby. And I know that you have just been hurt. And I want you to know that you always have a place here. You can always stay with us. And we will take care of you because we're your family and we love you. Okay?
Oh, wow. That was really good. You could be on TV. And you know what? You are on TV. Just smile. Yeah. Now, what was the mother doing with your dream?
She was controlling me. She was keeping me where it's safe, what she thought was safe.
Oh, why was she doing that? Why do moms do that?
I think it's protection.
What are they afraid of?
Yeah, failure.
Failure
The
or
unknown.
losing you?
Yes, very
Oh,
much.
losing you? That's great. And who are you?
I'm the best friend.
You're the best friend. You look like a best friend.
Well, I'm your friend, and I just care so much about you, and I just don't want to see you get hurt, you know? I don't know if you've really got what it takes to go for what you really want, and so I just am watching out for you, you know?
Oh, don't know if you have what it takes. Very, very good. Okay, boyfriend.
I'm the smothering boyfriend. You know, you have been spending a lot of time not just working, but you've got these things you want to do. And, you know, here I am, you want to get married soon, and I've kind of been sitting on the sidelines. I do my thing. I come over to your house right after work, and you're busy. You don't have time for me. You know, I'm really, really hurting. And I just don't know if I can play second place to this dream, this thing. And I'm just going to go.
We could not have scripted this. I mean, now I want you to kind of stand right here, and I want you to realize that it doesn't happen. It doesn't feel like it's one at a time. So kind of all circle around her for me. Just kind of hammer in. Oh! Now follow your dream. Oh my goodness.
No.
No, you can't go.
No.
You promised me. You're staying.
Let's give him a hand. That was great. Oh my goodness. Oh. How many of you immediately identified with this? Oh my. Let's think about then, if you're going to break out of borderland, you're going to have to deal with the border bullies, aren't you? How can you pick up a border bully? Here's how border bullies think. They can see the same dream that you see, but they see it differently. Just think about the 12 spies that Joshua was sent out by Moses to spy out this land. 12 people saw the same dream. They did. It was the land of promise. They all come back and they say, this is a land flowing with milk and honey. This is a wonderful land. And then 10 of them say, there were giants in the land. I mean, and they were so big, they were all giants. Well, no, they weren't all giants. Some of them were giants. So border bullies exaggerate the dangers. They do. They exaggerate the dangers. We can't do this. I remember back in Egypt when we used to have all this wonderful food. We had onions, we had leeks, we had meat, we had fish. It was the good old days. We don't want to do this. We need to go back. Ooh. Ever heard of good old days? They're the people who don't want you to go this direction over here. And besides, that land's not so great anyway. I mean, it really isn't. There's all kinds of problems in that land. There's all kinds of dangers in this land. And, we can find a better place to do this. So they take the dream and they keep minimizing the dream. Smaller, smaller, smaller. They exaggerate the dangers. They make the dream smaller and smaller. They talk about the good old days, and they basically talk you out of accomplishing the dream. Tone of voice. Body language. What they say. Their rejection of you. Their comments about the dream. Border bullies often will tell this person about this stupid dream that they're doing, and they know this person will tell that person. And those 10 spies took a hold of the nation. Border bullies can take care of the whole nation, turn the whole nation against the dream until the entire nation lined up on this and said, we're not going, and you're not taking us there. Now, if your dream is a little step out of your comfort zone, you'll get one type of reaction. But if your dream is way over here, you're going to have a whole different kind of reaction, aren't you? Because this is way outside of everybody else's comfort zone. And the more it's way out here, the more they come with aggression against you. So, I was in an interview last week on TV in Dallas. And the interviewer says, well, you know what, I read the book. I could see myself in this book, but you don't still face border bullies in your life. I mean, you're a famous writer. You don't have these problems. And I started laughing. I said, so you outgrow border bullies. Is that what you're saying? He says, well, do you? And I said, well, last year, we were going to move to Hollywood to make motion pictures. And we surprisingly, God opened up our heart, ripped it out, dug a hole in Africa, put our heart in it, covered it, and said, now follow your heart to Africa. When we announced, when I called my wife from Africa, family, huge overlap, extremely happily married. I'm in Africa. I say to her, sweetheart, are you sitting down? And she says, why do I need to be sitting down? I said, you probably should be laying down. Sitting down's not... And she said, I'm sitting down. We're not moving to Africa, are we? I said, do you remember those vows you made to me years ago? Huge change. Children, grandchildren on this side said, sweetheart, we will not move unless we're in unity on this. This is too big. But then all of the public and the friends here, we announce we're going to Africa, and it was 10 people thick, yelling, this is the stupidest thing you're doing. You're at the height of your career. Why are you going to Africa? For Pete's sakes, let Africa take care of itself. What are you going to do there? Where are you going to get the money for that? Where's your staff for that? That's how I felt. Do you know I didn't have one person who said you should do this, except family. And at a low point, I got a telephone call at our home from a man I didn't know. I still don't know who it was. This was the telephone call. What's the real reason you're leaving the country? Did you have a sexual affair and your marriage is on the rocks and you're just getting out of the country? Is that why? I said, no, sir. Our marriage is very happy. In fact, it's never been any happier. We're doing fine. I did not commit any kind of sexual affair. Well, then it's the money. You stole money. You embezzled money or something. So what's the reason you left? I said, sir, I didn't embezzle any money. I've given away more money than my whole life put together. It's not money. All right, then. I was trembling. I mean, this is an attack. Well, what's the real reason? I said, could it be that the people of Africa have a need and God led me to go help? I mean to tell you, this can be one lonely moment. I was really, this stage isn't big enough to hide. And when, nobody else is around, you're all by yourself, and all those people are saying those things. I was talking to a good friend Sunday in California. I said to him, his name is Rick Warren, he's a pastor of a Saddleback Church and the author of The Purpose-Driven Church. And we were interviewing him for this TV series. And I said, Rick, when you initiate new things in the church and the movement, do you ever have any border bullies? He started to laugh out loud. And he said, Bruce, every single new initiative have had hordes of border bullies who come attacking. I said, you mean every time? Every time. You know what? I'm not an exception, and you're not an exception. In conclusion, I want to ask you to become somebody. I want to ask you to become that one border buster. Because not only can your life have a legacy of you achieving your dream, but I want to put another little dream in the corner of your heart. Because behind you can be a whole army of people that you've set them free. You've believed in them, you loved them, you made a telephone call, you opened the door, you cried with them, but you stood at the border where they were paralyzed and you opened it up. And you can lead a massive number of people, because you know how many people you know and you meet? Tens of thousands in a lifetime. Tens of thousands. And as you move forward, thinking about your dream, just always look back over your shoulder and open up the way for other people. We were just at the Chick-fil-A headquarters 2 weeks ago in Dallas, speaking on this topic. And I was explaining the 7 stages, and I said, does anybody have any questions? And there was a couple sitting right there, 3rd row back, and he was emotionally shaken. You could see that he was bothered. And I said to him, what's the matter? He said, I was following my dream, and my dream is to finish school and to go into this part over here, which is my dream, and I can't. And his wife started to cry. It started right there. I said, what do you mean you can't? Are you supposed to do the dream? I thought so. What's the matter? We don't have any more money for tuition. Okay, watch. Okay. You can be a border buster. Why? There's somebody who's stuck, so help them. So I said to the man, open your hands like this. I said, what do you mean open my hands like this? Just open your hands like this. He opened his hands like this, and I reached in my pocket, and I took all the money that I had, and I put it in his hands. And I said, here. And then I turned to the corporate staff, at Chick-fil-A and I said, let's help this couple get their dream. You should have seen what the people did. They almost ran. and he's crying. We all are. He's this big pile of money. And I said, what did the dream giver just do for you? He said, he set me free. You know what he did? He did. But you know what the dream giver needs? He needs you. You got to take a risk for people. You got to care about other people who are at the border. So as we close this fourth section of Borderland, don't forget this is the way it is. Don't forget it's a price tag that all of us have to pay. And don't forget that if you wait thinking I will begin when everybody agrees with my dream, you'll never do your dream, which means you may lose some friends. And some people may reject you and say critical things about you because you follow your dream. It's been that way for me. I have a feeling it's that way for you too. But you know what? You got to decide whose applause you're listening to the most. Are you listening to their applause or the dream giver's applause? Because you can't have both most of the time. Follow your dream. Break through the borderland. Thank you. Welcome to the wasteland. We're going to deal with probably the most unexpected part of your dream. It's when nothing works. I mean, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, no matter how many different ways you try to get there, for some reason, it's like something or someone is standing there saying, no. I said no. No. No matter what you do, it's still no. You know, whenever I find people, it seems the majority of them that I have a serious conversation with are stuck in this period called the wasteland. When you understand why it's no, you're going to end up saying yes to the wasteland. So let's get started. We're talking about this series, this Dream Giver series. And the idea is that God, who is the dream giver, has a dream for you before you're here. And He wants it done. And He puts that dream in the middle of your heart. And that you are the only one who has that unique dream in all of time, in all of humanity. You're the only person that has that dream. I was in Maui, Hawaii, speaking at a conference for millionaires. And I was asked to speak to them. And I was up in my room just kind of flicking channels one afternoon, and I saw a special on Maui. And it showed a movie, not a movie, just kind of a video taking place. On the top of this high volcano, there's this flower that's unique to Maui, and that's the only place in the world that exists. And it had a long neck on it, a different looking flower. It was spectacular, but it was odd in comparison to other flowers. And then they said there was one bird that could cross-pollinate this flower. And for whatever reason, the situation, the environment changed, and all those birds died. And I saw a picture of a man with a long stick that had this funny little shape. And they said, they have found that only that shape will work in the cross-pollination, and that was the exact shape of the beak of the bird that was extinct. And I thought to myself, isn't that amazing? That there's a need, and then there's a living organism that's made specifically to make that happen, and when that doesn't happen, this doesn't happen. Then I was thinking last week about the other bird. I was in a room overlooking our backyard, and I was trying to think through some things about my own life and writing in my journal, and I was trying to imagine some things I was struggling with, and I couldn't break through. And a bird flew in the back door. Now, this room is a high ceiling, and I was sitting there, and this bird came in and flew around the room and then started flying against the ceiling and hit it and hit it. And I began to see this bird is really hurting itself. It keeps trying to get through the ceiling when the ceiling won't move. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get that bird to go out where it was meant to be so it could fly, because it just didn't understand what I was trying to do. And it was intent on going through something that wouldn't move. The wasteland's like that. If you don't understand what the other person in the room is doing, you can hit the ceiling so many times, it feels like life's not worth it. So I want to talk to you about this wasteland. Now here's how it works. Way over in that corner is my dream. And I want to bring that dream back into reality here. And as you begin to think about your dream and decide to do it and clarify it, and it doesn't clarify all of a sudden, you know. It's not like, you know, an email comes from heaven saying, here is the dream and here's the stages you will go through. It's not that most people don't have any kind of a vision, don't have voices in their head telling them. They don't have people walk up and said, here is the dream. It's a time of struggle. It clarifies the older you get. And as you proceed, you break through the inner thoughts and you come to your comfort zone. You break through your wall of fear. And the last time we talked about this borderland that's around the outside of the edges of your comfort zone, where other people who are either directly or indirectly related to you respond to you breaking out of your comfort zone, and it makes them very uncomfortable. These two things, your inhibition and your intimidation. Inhibition is I don't feel comfortable inside of me. I can't see myself doing this. Intimid means somebody puts timidity inside of you and you feel nervous or insecure or afraid. That's other people intimidating you. By the time a person breaks through these two difficult, stressful situations, you are emotionally fatigued and you're emotionally excited. And you've had initially your thoughts are about the dream, then it's about your fear, and usually that lasts a while, then it's about these people and what they're saying, and will you really go through it, and what happens if this person does this and this person does that, and you process through all that. And you know what? You've had your eye off the dream in that period because you're fighting through things that are barriers. And when you finally come out the other side, do you know that's the first step to doing your dream? All this is inside of you. You haven't started the dream yet. Now you're ready to actually go do it. Because this is all inside of you. I can't see you. I can't see you coming to the edge of your comfort zone because it happens inside of you. I can't see what you're thinking about, what other people say to you, because it's inside of you and you don't tell me. It's only when you finally get through here that your emotions are, let's go now. And your eyes hear, and you do not pay attention to look down because your focus is on finally getting to the dream. And this is so unexpected. And what happens is you are moving forward for a while. In fact, it appears to be very easy for a while. And then something gets hung up. It doesn't usually bother you too much because it's your first hang-up. And you probably can find a solution. And then you expect to go as fast as you did right there, but you don't. And you go lateral. And you try something else. And you hit a box canyon. And you say, I can't believe, I thought for sure this would take us there. I know we're supposed to get there. I want to get there. And so you come over here and you say, I see that path right there. I'm sure we can do it. Let's go this direction right here. And lo and behold, this path ends in quicksand, and you're sinking, and you're saying, how did I get here? I can't believe this is happening to me. And you try it again, and you have a new strategy, and you take this path all the way up the hill, and it leads nowhere. And you can see this. And you cannot believe that you're stuck. Because it doesn't make sense to you that you're here. Because you're supposed to be here. After all, look, you're supposed to do this. And you just broke through this and this. So come on, and you can't. Now, I want to check if I've been describing this right. A lot of heads nodding. How many can finish my sentences about wasteland? Know exactly what I'm talking about. How many of you say, I love wasteland? Wasteland's hard. If I were to give you a perspective or a word over wasteland, I'd put the word postponement. You just feel like you're on hold. And no matter what you do, you get delay after delay and frustration. Now there's a pitfall here. There's two of them. Well, one of the pitfalls is, now that you know about it, you can prevent it. That you can say to yourself, I know that this is coming, and I'm not going there this time. And so I will find a new way to go around wasteland. I want you to know, there is no way around wasteland. There is no way. I know fully about wasteland. There is no bridge over the waters. There isn't any. There's no way you can dig down. There's no airplane you can glide over. Unless it's a little tiny dream. And this doesn't happen. But if you're following a major dream or a core dream, you will go through wasteland. So this issue of preventing it, now that you know it, it's not worth 2 cents. You can't prevent it. You can't prevent somebody else from doing it even when you want to. The second pitfall that happens is our interpretation of the wasteland is a pitfall. Because when it first begins, we're a little frustrated. Then we're more. Frustration means there's an obstacle between you and your goal. That's what frustration means. I'm frustrated. It means I can't. This is frustration, and it's the word delay. And, watch this now, I'm moving, but I'm not going anywhere. And therefore, this appears to me to be a waste of time, a waste of effort, a waste of money, a waste of my energies, and you feel like you're on a cul-de-sac. You go around the cul-de-sac, and you come to the end, and you go around the cul-de-sac, and you keep moving. That's exactly how it feels. And before too long of a period of time goes by, you begin to feel what? You feel tired. You feel hopeless. You feel frustrated. If it gets worse than that, you start doubting. You doubt that the dream was the right dream. After all, if the dream was the right dream, I should be doing it by now. This proves it's not the right dream. And I think the second misconception, besides that it's preventable, is that there's no purpose to it. That it's purposeless. That's the pitfall. Because when you're in it, it certainly feels that way. Why? Why? Let me see if I can't give you some principles about this, just to put in the back of your mind how this works. Number one principle is based upon the fact of what you presume is going to happen. You and I have a presumption. We have an expectation. Here's the expectation. Breakthrough, breakthrough. Let's go do this now. I know there's giants out here, but let's go do this now. So I'm expecting, my expectations are to get going. And then reality is this far away from it. And this wedge, I call this the wasteland wedge. The difference between what I expect to have happen and what happens is a wide wedge. And at the beginning of this wide wedge, just the very thing, I have a feeling of delight. I'm finally going to do this thing. Then I hit this wedge. I expect it, and reality's here. There's a delay. I wasn't expecting a delay. But if the wedge continues, you notice what happens to the space between expectations and reality gets further and further apart. It becomes more and more alarming. And eventually, I'll move into something called, I feel so disappointed. That's early wasteland talk. So when I find somebody who's in wasteland, I will ask them, how do you feel? And you're going to use one of these words I'll give you right now because it's in the wasteland wedge. And this is early in the wasteland wedge, where you feel disappointed. I feel disappointed about this. You know, if you look up disappointment in the dictionary, you know what it means? It means to fail to live up to expectations. That's literally what it means. So my expectations, because I didn't know about wasteland, was it'd be like this, and it's like this. So I'm disappointed. If nothing changes, I'm going to accelerate my determination. I'm going to flat out not let this happen anymore. And you gear up inside because you say, this is an obstacle that can be pushed. And I'm going to push it out of the way. And you try harder. And as you get more and more determined, nothing changes. And you feel another word because the determination didn't pay off. And that is, you start losing something you had a lot of a minute ago. It was, I had a lot of courage that I'm going to get here. Now I'm losing courage, and I start having a lack of courage, which is the word discouraged. Discouraged means I have a lack of courage. A lack of courage about what? That this is going to change. So I'm less sure that this is going to occur. This wedge continues, and not only is discouragement, but at this point, as you said a minute ago, this is where you doubt the dream. The dream mustn't be right. I'm feeling very unsure about this dream. I'm having second thoughts about this dream. Maybe I made a mistake because by now I should be there and by now I'm here. So this doubt, but if you talk to a person about their dream and they start expressing doubt, what are you doubting? I'm doubting if I made the right decision following this dream. Where are they? They're right in the middle of wasteland, and they're in the middle of wasteland. They're in not a fun place. As the doubt continues, a very alarming word crops up. And I think, to me, this is probably the crisis place. If you see expectations here, and you see reality in your mind or emotions to be here, you have a picture in your mind that what you expect and what's going to happen are the same. As time goes on, however, it's way down here. It's apart. And eventually, when you go far enough down this track, you're going to stop having an illusion that it's going to come together. And you're going to say, I feel so disillusioned. Disillusionment means I no longer have a false sense of reality. What do you mean? Expectations, reality. Up to this point, I thought reality would be here. It's no longer here. And I no longer have a false sense that it is here. I now see, and I now have to face the fact, it's down there. Disillusioned is one tough word. I've been disillusioned. Have you been disillusioned? How do you describe the feeling of being disillusioned? How do you describe that? How else would you say it? I feel hopeless. How else do you feel? Disillusioned. Despair. Say it again. Lost. Now I want to give a little side note here. When a person is following the right dream, and they go through the fear, they go through the border bullies, and they keep enduring this, and they hit this point, they are emotionally depleted. They feel a failure, and they feel very distressed inside. Do you agree with this? At that point is the point we make the biggest mistakes of our life, is right at this moment. This is where adultery happens. Because the person who's following the dream doesn't break through, and so much hope and expectation is here that when this is broken and it's splintered on the ground, there's a lack of feeling worth anything. You start feeling I'm a failure. And there is a great emptiness in a man and a woman's heart right there. And that emptiness is crying out for comfort. And oftentimes it's at that moment, because I've helped many of my friends with this, it's at that moment that somebody else who you shouldn't have a relationship with is extremely tempting to you. You're in a temptability zone that's very dangerous. This is the place where people do something that they can't believe when they're out of that they ever did. How did I do that? So you want to be very, very careful when you're in the wasteland and when you're feeling disillusioned. I want you to know something. You will feel disillusioned. It's not a sin. It's being human. And it's got to be okay with you to go through the process, because it's the process. The week before I flew back up from Africa to the United States, I had 3 meetings with people who I'd never met before. 2 of them I initiated and 1 I didn't initiate. The 2 people I initiated meetings for was about this thing over here that I was trying to do, and they were trying to do the same thing, and we were going to get together. When I sat down with this person, I said to them, "Tell me your story." They began to tell their story to me, and it was an amazing story, and they ended up right here. And they started talking about disillusionment with the vision. And I said to this young man, he was about 35, I said, "So, are you going to quit?" "Maybe." You're fragile right here. This whole issue of the wedge, the second person in the wasteland, the third person in the wasteland. Once you understand this, the dream giver will arrange you to bump into all kinds of people who are in the crisis point and need somebody to, number 1, comfort, number 2, say, "You're right on schedule. You're right on schedule, it's okay." And then tell them or share with them what is the answer, what to do next. Now, I want to show you something. How many of you would say, I think right now in my life I'm in wasteland, either somewhere in that, but I'm in wasteland now. Let me see your hands. To look around. It looks like to me that there's probably 30% in a room. That means at any time you're with a group of people, between 20 and 30, maybe 35% of them, it means 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4 people are in the wasteland, even though I'm fine. They're not fine. It's just that nobody's talking to them about the real issues of life. So what we're teaching you here is extremely important. If the disillusionment doesn't change, that is, the expectations don't come down to reality, or reality doesn't come up to expectations, you move over to something called double-mindedness. Double-mindedness is this. You have emotions that feel one way and thoughts that feel another way. And those two fight against each other. Double-mindedness is 2 opposing, not thoughts, that's the way it sounds, but it really is usually an emotion and a thought. That is, I really, but I hate. And that whole issue of wanting to go and not wanting to go is a real issue until finally you get to the point where you're in despair and you've lost all hope of this thing ever coming true. And this is where the death of a vision, the death of the dream occurs. at this point, if a person permits the dream to die, it's not meant to die. You're not led in here to die. You're led in here for a purpose. If it dies, there's something so deep inside of a person that is, I don't know, it's not broken, but it's splintered. It's very, very deep inside of a person. And when you therefore come back to a person who's been through this, and they have had the death of their dream, you have a person who deep inside of their heart is really in need of real help from you. Because that wasn't supposed to occur. And when the death of a dream occurs in a person, it has ripples everywhere in the person. Your dream is not supposed to die. And some of you who have had the experience of not understanding why you keep hitting the ceiling of that room over and over and over again, in the next point you're going to understand what really was going on. So, principle number 2. The wasteland focuses on the dreamer's preparation. On the dreamer's preparation. What do I mean? When you're way back here and you think about the dream, you say to yourself, I can't do that. You know what? You're not lying to yourself. You can't do that. You don't have the capacity to do that. You don't have the competence to do that. You've never been there before. So what does the wasteland do? The wasteland, and I'll show you this in a minute, the wasteland is the process by which a dream giver prepares the dreamer to do the dream. You are worked on in wasteland. And all we focus on is trying to do the dream. And the dream giver says, we'll get to there, but let's deal with you. Because your capacity is too small, so let's increase your capacity. Your character's got some flaws that if we don't work on, by the time you get over here, you'll misuse it and you'll abort it. Let's deal with your competence in these areas right here. So we're going to put you to school, and because you're so intense about this, we're going to put you to real hard school. Now, the problem is, we misread this, don't we? Now, think about this. I'll give you 2 illustrations. David in the Bible, shepherd boy, is crowned, anointed to be king. King? Oh, man. Whew! Expectations, king. Yes. Any normal guy thinking about palaces and prime rib, medium rare, and Breyer's vanilla ice cream every night. I mean, he just, yes. And then the king tries to kill him. And then he starts running in caves. I'm in caves. I'm in caves? Yes. For how long? Well, a week? Yeah, longer than that. Longer than a week? How about a month? No, that's not long enough. What are you talking about? I'm king. Well, how about a year? No, a year's not long enough. You mean I'm in caves for more than a year? How about you're in caves for years and years? Okay, question. It's the right dream. What did he do wrong back here to get him stuck? Answer, he did absolutely right. He honored the king. What did he wrong? Didn't do a thing wrong. Well, and why is he in the caves? He's going to be king. He's not ready to be king. You always know the dream before you're ready to do the dream. Always. And somehow we think this naive, this making sense? This naive idea, I'm going to grow into it this quick. God says, no one grows into this quick. And therefore this whole issue, and there's a verse. I was trying to figure this out in the life of David late at night. And I kept trying to find a key. Why in the caves? I understand the issue of authority, but why in the caves? And there is one verse that says this. And everyone who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was discontented gathered to David, so he became the captain of all of them. And I thought, man, is he ever being prepared to be the leader? Everybody who's discontented, everybody who is flat out in debt, everybody who is the least people you want to deal with, they're all coming to you. Lead me, lead me, lead me. No, go talk to them. Go talk to them. When the preparation was over, and not one day before it, he's king. How do you know how to be king? Who's laughing? You liked that, didn't you? How about Joseph? Dream, being a leader. Even his family's going to bow down to him. Whoa. His family throws him into slavery. He goes down into Egypt. Did he deserve that? Didn't deserve that. Gets purchased as a slave by a man who has a big estate and continues to do right even though he's not with his family. He's not getting his inheritance. He doesn't have the prestige. He's a slave. And he continues until he's running the whole estate. He's running the whole estate. And he's doing good. And then a temptation comes along. The wife of the man who owns the estate says, you know, my husband's not around. Let's have some fun in the bedroom. And he says, no, not going to do that. What are you talking about? Nobody will ever know. Yeah, but I know. And your husband on, or your husband, the answer is no. She comes running toward him. He runs away. She grabs his coat, yells, rape, says to her husband, you know what your favorite manager did? He gets thrown in prison. Now just hold on to this. Second time. 1, 2. What did he do wrong here? Nothing. He was betrayed here. What did he do wrong here? He was betrayed again. He gets into prison, big time prison. I mean, at this point, Egypt's got the biggest prison in the world. What happens to him? He gets promoted and promoted and promoted till he is running the most difficult, huge operation in the entire world, the prison of Egypt. When that preparation's done, and not one day before it, or not one day too late, the doors opened, and within, watch this, one day, he rules Egypt. How, Joseph, did you know how to do that? I mean, run the biggest country in the world. Whoa. Of course, that couldn't be true about you. Of course, it couldn't be true that the wasteland, therefore, what does the wasteland call you to do? It calls you to have patience. Patience. Why? You are being changed in here. By what? The tests that come your way. Friends, you can't pass go. You can't. There's a wall here. And no matter how many people you get on your side, the wall is here. The only way you can go is backwards and rebel. That's why, watch this now. This is so helpful to me, and I hope to you. I lack the ability to do that. I lack the fortitude, the strength, the character to do that. So what comes my way? Difficulties. The Bible has a word for difficulties. It's called tests. Now listen to this. James said it this way. Count it all joy. Count it all what? Count it all joy. Be happy. When you fall into something. You fall into tests of faith. Faith about what? Faith about him. Faith about the dream. Faith about you. Faith about all kinds of things we could talk about another time. But the whole issue of the tests of faith. But let patience have its perfect work, meaning don't rip off the process. Let the process come to its conclusion. Let patience have its full work. Now, what it says will come next is just incredible about this. So that you will be mature, lacking nothing. Lacking nothing about what? These tests are for that dream. That's why you can count this joyful, because you know there's purpose. And when you let this process come to the conclusion, you don't walk into the dream lacking anything. I've never done that, but I can do that now. Why? Because your competence, your character, your capacity has all changed. The last principle I want to share with you is the one that's so encouraging to me. It's proportionate. What do I mean proportionate? If it's a little dream, it's a little wasteland. If it's a significant dream, I mean stand up, big dream. Guess how long the wasteland's going to be? It's going to be so hard. Why? You're a long way from there. Therefore, the wasteland is long, it's hard, and it's multiple. Why? He's not maturing one thing in you. He's maturing numerous things in you and me. Therefore, work backwards. How big is the dream? And how far away do you feel from it? And if you're, no way can I do that. You're going to be in wasteland a long time. It's got to be okay with you. Is it okay with you? Do you trust the dream giver enough that he knows what he's doing with the dreamer? I mean, he's the one who wants the dream done more than you. And he's the one who put the dream inside of your heart and made everything about you long for the fulfillment of the dream. If he did that, it's reasonable to think that he's involved in the process of getting you ready to do the dream. And since the dream giver happens to know everything about everyone all of the time, and since the dream giver has all the power to do whatever he can think of doing, and since the dream giver doesn't waste a day of anybody's life, could it be that if you were to see the whole plan of the wasteland in your life, you'd be sitting on the sidelines shouting, yes! See, that's it. Say yes to the wasteland and get on with the dream. Thank you. Thank you very much. I wish at this moment the TV or the video series or the DVD or computer would turn off. And somehow, like that, we could be sitting together in a quiet place with a cup of coffee, and I could share this very personal session with you. I'd love to see your eyes. I'd love to see what you're thinking. And I'd love to interact with you as person to person. This series is a series specifically made for individuals. We're also making a series that's a corporate edition, that's for a whole company. We're also doing a school edition because we want teenagers and young people to follow their dream. And we're making one for the religious market, for the church market. And this particular session, this particular series is for the general market. And in this particular part of our series, we're going to talk about a whole picture about you. You know, you have a mind, you have a will, you have an emotion, you have a soul, and you have a spirit. And if we only focus on one thing, we become off balance. If we only focus on our mind, we become off balance. If we only become a bodybuilder and don't bring the rest of our life together, we get off balance. And I believe true happiness is connected to being holistic. That all the part of your life is in balance. And we're going to talk about a part of your life that perhaps you're not used to talking about. Of course, you're not too used to talking about your dream either. But now we're going to talk about a personal side. We're going to deal with your spirituality in this session. And I want you to just open your heart a little bit and just be thinking about this whole concept. Because this next unit is very, very personal. And I hope it makes sense to you like the other ones have. If you remember this whole panorama of our dream world, we start all the way back over here. I'm getting to know my dream bench pretty well. It's the idea that all of us have a dream in our heart. A dream is a picture. It's a longing. It's a need that's met. A dream is, I want to do this to meet that need. And I want to do it because I'm intuitively good at doing it. And it gives me fulfillment and satisfaction. And when I'm done doing it, I feel like I did something significant. Because that's the way it works. When you follow your dream, because you're in charge of following it or not, you'll come to the edge of your comfort zone, the wall of fear, as we've talked about. Then you meet around the edge of your comfort zone at the borderland. You meet some people, either border bullies, border buddies, or border busters. And then you go to that place where none of us enjoy, and all of us are glad when it's over and say, I don't want to ever go through it again, but I'm so glad I did go through it. Is called wasteland. At the other end of wasteland, there's not a door, is there, between these? There's not an announcement that's made. You're finished with wasteland, and choruses of hallelujah. Because that's how you feel when it's over. That's how I feel. I feel like singing when I realize that's over. It just kind of dawns on you. It's never sudden. It's never sudden. It slowly dawns on you that you're coming out of this pit. And what you do as you come out of this pit, you sense that you're coming out of this desert, this dry, cactusy, caked desert. And you're over here, and you're invited to go up a mountain that's right off to the side. It's off to the side, and it has different parts to it. And it's like you come to a T in the road, and you can choose to skip this, and go down here to fight the giants that are waiting you, or you can turn left and go up this mountain into something that is, I guess if I were to summarize it, it's a sanctuary for you. Nobody else is in the sanctuary when you're there. You're all by yourself. At the Valley of the Giants, you could have people with you. You can have people with you in the wasteland. But in sanctuary, you're all by yourself. And it is, I guess if I were to summarize it, is you're coming out of wasteland emotionally exhausted. Sometimes, a couple times in my life, I've been at the end of my rope physically because of some things that occurred, and fatigued. And I think if I were to put a word on top of it, it would be the word renewal. It's a wedge. It's a transition from this battle that's inward in the wasteland to the battle that's outward with the giants. And in the middle of these two battles, there's a season that is offered to everyone. And a pitfall that we have is you may think, especially if you are very religious, that everybody goes through sanctuary. And it is not. It is optional, and it's not required. And even people who you would say, this is a very religious person, many times religious people skip sanctuary. And they just go right down because they're anxious to get on with the dream, and they don't take into account the fact that this issue right here, they need this issue. They're too anxious for the dream, and they underestimate the value of this. The second misconception that people have, not only is it's not really required, is that when people are invited up into this, there's a sense of anticipation, but a sense of, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. And it's not with the dream, it's not with the giants, it's just an inner part of you is stirring. And people feel at this moment a little bit risky here, because you're not in control of this, and you know something deeper is happening or you're being invited to it. And depending upon whether or not you are interested at that point in your life of getting your spirituality more in tune, you may or may not decide to go up this mountain. So there is a sense of risk that occurs right here. This mountain, called sanctuary, is extremely life-changing if you want to go through it. And there are 3 parts to it. The first part is you and I are invited, in a sense, up to a waterfall that is coming down off of this mountain, and it's lush green, and there's a pool right there. I want you to picture this in your mind, because this is how I picture it. And you're invited to come into this sanctuary and just flat out get restoration. And the dream gets put on hold here. Somehow you put it on hold, and it's very different than this. In the wasteland, you are trying your best to break through, but in sanctuary, that's not the same thing. You come here and you know, somehow we know, it's okay to be here, it's good to be here, and the dream kind of goes on hold. And this season, oftentimes people get sick here, coming out of here. They just kind of come down off the challenges of it, they get sick physically, and this invitation right here is to get healed emotionally and physically till you feel strong again. How many have been in that at least once in your life? Our habit in this is to underestimate the value of that and to want to short circuit it because we think it's not necessary. It's necessary, because if you come out of wasteland, unless it's a short wasteland, if you come out of wasteland and in a hurry go down to the valley of giants, you're going to face your first giant exhausted. And you're going to be defeated when you shouldn't have been defeated, because you didn't have enough reserves in you, because the giants are real. So my encouragement to you is, when you get the invitation to come on up to the waters to be restored, realize you need it. You're not a super person. It's time to stop. Sometimes we can skip this and go into the giants and realize we are being overwhelmed because of our emotional or fatigue, and we can circle right back around, walk back up the hill, and go back up into this pool. I've done it. This doesn't happen once in life unless you only follow one dream. If you only have one dream, you go through this. But as you grow and realize your capacity is unlimited. I'll talk about that in the last session we have together. That ultimately, you will pass through wasteland at a different time. You're doing a different dream in your valley of giants. You can be in the sanctuary about what you're doing here and be in the wasteland at the same time. I don't know how that happens, but it happens. This sanctuary is not general. It's specific to this dream. It's specific to this dream that you are doing. As you begin to feel more refreshed, you will find yourself wanting to move up to the next one. But before I move on to the next part of sanctuary, I want to read you something. So many people have said to me, I wish you would teach us more about these stages. And so we've been working on another tool called Daily Dreams. And it's an 8-week series that you can get on the internet or in print. And I want to read to you one of our days, or part of one of our days, about the sanctuary, and see what you think about it. So I'm just going to read this to you. The young woman lay down on the wasteland as a canopy of blackness shone around her. No stars outlined the sky, and no breeze cooled her aching body. The stillness and silence almost became intolerable at night. Every once in a while, a lone cricket would play its soulful tune as the woman drifted off to sleep. This night didn't seem different from any other. She lay down in the same patch of sand as a tear ran down the side of her face and fell into the sand. Many nights in the wasteland, she had cried herself to sleep. And yet, as this tear reached the sand, something different happened. Suddenly, the desert sand turned into moist, green grass. The barren sky was filled with stars all of a sudden, and the moon shone brightly, lighting up the entire sky with its captivating light. The young woman stood up. She walked a few feet until she came across a small crystal pond. The water sparkled in the moonlight, and she saw her reflection mirrored in the clear water. She reached down and gently glided her hand into the water to see if it was real. Her fingers had barely touched the surface when she felt something inside her change. It was as if something had breathed in her and healed just a little bit of the pain of wasteland. She looked around her to see if anyone was there and then swept her fingers across the water a little farther, only to discover the same thing happened. Her heart healed just a little bit more. She heard footsteps walking slowly toward her, and she turned to see a man standing a few feet from her. Their eyes locked, and for one moment it was as if time stood still. She had never seen him before, but something told her that she knew him. His eyes were warm and compassionate as he looked at her. It was almost as if he was looking past her into her soul. His gaze was so intense with love that she had to look away. She walked, and he walked a few more steps, and he reached toward her and reached out his hand. She placed her softly in his, and together they walked to the end of the small pond, where there was a beautiful tree draping over the part of the pond. The trunk of the tree looked odd, but she couldn't tell why. He let go of her hand as she walked over to where the tree stood. Confused, she turned around to ask him what it meant. Without even speaking, she instantly knew his reply. This was the pond, holding all her tears from wasteland. Each tear had been delicately captured here. Each tear had been recorded, and each tear had been seen. She walked over to the edge of the pool, and she stepped in it. The water almost shot up her legs into her heart. All feelings of doubt were removed. All feelings of emptiness were replaced with wholeness. All feelings of pain were replaced with joy. The man stood watching her go deeper and deeper into the pool until she was immersed in its water, and a smile danced upon his lips as he watched the one he had created play in the water. Small tears filled his eyes as he looked within her and saw the beauty of her heart as it healed. It was healed. It was complete. It was whole. He had seen this many times before and knew that many more would come to their pond. He was capturing their tears even now and waiting for them to come to the water. He was recording every tear as it slipped down their cheek and fell in the sand. And he was waiting for that one tear that would bring them here. That one tear that could lead them to where he was and heal their broken heart. Some that he waited never came. Their tears brought them to the point of entering, but they were too distracted to stay. They were too busy to notice him standing there. They were too busy to be healed. This issue of the sanctuary is a gift from the dream giver to you. And if you finish the wasteland, it's his way of saying, thank you for trusting me enough. Now let me heal that part of your heart that is out of place. If you want, you can go further up the side of that mountain. Some don't. Some say that's enough. And they come back down and they come into the valley, restored, but not fully complete. There is big, tall trees going up higher into the mountain, the biggest trees you've ever seen, the densest forest that never had a trail in it. And as you walk up around that waterfall, you come to these massive trees. And as you look through the forest, you see this light shining in the forest. And it's unlike any color you've ever seen. It's not a color that you knew. And this light had a reaction upon you. It was a wonderful light. It made you feel like all peace and harmony and love was sweeping over you as its rays touched you. And every step you took forward into the light made you feel more and more like that. And boy, you said, I want to come to the light. And then you begin to realize that the light was going through you. The light was going right through you. And the more you came toward the light, the more of the light was coming into you. And then you began to notice you started to strain against the light, because the light started being blocked by dark patches inside of you. And as you pursued the light, you realized that the light was the dream giver. And he was inviting you to come closer into relationship with him. And every step you took closer, two things happened. You wanted to be closer because you felt closer to the person who loved you in a way you never believed a person who knew you could love you that much. And as you got closer and closer, that light almost focused upon you, and it became harder and harder to go forward because the blotches inside of you were stopping the light, and you stopped mid-stride. And you looked inside, and you saw these were things that displeased the dream giver. And he said, for every step forward you want to get closer to me, you have to take care of one of those dark blotches. And as you pulled one out and looked at it, you remembered you swore at God right here, because you felt betrayed by him, because you thought that you were doing what he was asking, and he betrayed you. And that dark blotch not only was a blotch in you, but was a wound in him, because he felt your betrayal. And you began to make choices because you longed to go forward, but you knew there was a price tag for every step. And this whole issue is one of relationship. And as you dealt with one and you apologized for your anger, for your bitterness, for criticizing his motive, now that you knew his motive was wonderful, and you were ashamed. And as you took this out and you brought this before the light and said, I am so sorry for doing that, it's gone. Instantly it's gone. And you took another huge step forward. And you kept doing this until there were some of those big blotches you just wouldn't deal with. And you expected to hear some kind of condemnation from the light. And there wasn't any. There was pure love still coming, and the realization that the invitation is always open. Your relationship with the dream giver at that part of sanctuary, you will get closer to the dream giver than any other time of your life at this time coming out of the wasteland. And you will find that the word that begins with a T and ends with a T happened to you here. It's the word trust. Because of your interaction here, your trust of the dream giver deepens. Your trust was the weakest here, and it's strongest here. When that season is finished, because you won't deal anymore with the spot, you hear another invitation. Most people who stay with the light go up to the last stage. Some people don't, but almost everybody. And its invitation, not to the waters, not come to the waters, not come to the light. He asks you to come to the very top of this huge mountain where there's a cliff overhanging. And it's a summit that overlooks the vast panorama of the dream that's yet to be there. And you are more free and more relaxed and more comforted and more feeling loved and appreciated than you ever could imagine that could be possible. And when you stand on the top of that summit, you see the dream clearer, with all of the brilliant light shining on the dream than you've ever seen to that moment. And you look down that dream and everything inside of you is saying, oh yes, it's been worth it. I'm right here. I can't wait to get down off the summit to get to the Valley of Giants. I am ready. And just as you're about ready to turn, you hear a voice. Whew. You don't even want to turn around. You recognize the voice. I don't know how you do, but you do. And the voice says, give me your dream. And everything inside of you says, what? I fought all this time. I paid all these prices. I sacrificed. I gave up some of my dreams to do this dream. What do you mean, give me the dream? And everything inside of you fights desperately with the dream giver about the dream. Because this dream, just use this as the dream, this dream not only became special to you and precious to you, but it grew into you. And your self-image was connected more and more to this dream. And it just wasn't a book laying on your chest. It was inside of you now. And you were attached to it. And when the dream giver said, give me your dream, it felt like he was ripping out your heart. How can you give him the dream? What would you do then? Would you go back down the mountain and go back to wasteland? And what would be your purpose if you gave him the dream? And what would he do with the dream if you gave him the dream in the first place? Why does he want the dream? Huge struggle. You know the struggle? Not too many know the struggle. How many know that struggle? Usually, not more than 10% of an audience knows this struggle. Because you only get to it by climbing up sanctuary. Why is this happening? Here's why it's happening. The dream giver gave you the dream, and the dream pulled you all the way up here, and now the dream had become more important to you than the dream giver. And the dream was 1, and the dream giver was 2. And the dream giver said, there'll be no dreams ahead of me. Well, there can be, but that's your choice. Sometimes we don't choose to give it. Sometimes our fear is so strong, and our emptiness that says, well, what's left then? What happens to my life if I give you the dream? Because he doesn't tell you what's next. He just quietly says, give me the dream. He doesn't command it. He doesn't beg it. He gives an invitation. Give me the dream. When we keep the dream, this is now my dream. And when we fight a giant, we fight the giant with no help from him. It's my dream. I'm not about to ask help from you because I said no to you. And we feel our relationship's been strained, it's been broken to some degree. And therefore, in our heart, because we've said no, a prayer sticks in our throat. How can I ask help from you when I told you no? And therefore we go alone, clutching the dream to fight giants all alone. But for those people who, in the process of coming to the light, came to know the dream giver better, and they trusted him deeper, don't hurry from the light. He has, therefore, the relationship with you, and you have the relationship with him, that he has the freedom to ask whatever he wants. So if you choose to give the dream, and I think the word here is surrender. You surrender the dream. I want you to understand something. When you surrender it, it doesn't remain in your hands. It's the word relinquishment. And your hand and your heart is empty. It's empty at that point. And that feeling is a distressing feeling. Because all the way up to this point, you've had a sense of where you're going. And now when you die to this dream, because something dies inside of you, when you come off of this summit and you come down, you are like a ship with no rudder and no sail, and you don't know where you're going. And then at the bottom, there's somebody waiting with the dream. He said, thank you. Here's the dream. But when you take the dream, you don't go like this with it anymore. You're a steward of the dream. You're not the owner of the dream. You carry it lightly. You understand you're not the servant of the dream. You're the servant of the dream giver. And the difference is radical. Therefore, when you come down this way and it's his dream that you're serving with him, and you come to your first giant, whose dream is this? And my friends, the great dreamers throughout history, I've read many of their lives. You'd be shocked how many of the great dreamers who've changed histories know all about this. They serve a nobler cause. They have a destiny that is sacred. It's not sacrificial, it's not shared, it's not selfish, it's sacred. And because of the relationship with the dream giver, they live a life that is of a different kind. Therefore, as you think about sanctuary, I want you to be thinking about the word radical transformation. Hidden, but I promise you, when you go through the process and you come back down the other side, you are a different person than when you went up. I was trying to think through how to deal with this issue. And I was reading in the Bible late at night, and I stumbled upon probably the second most famous passage in all of that book. And it just made sense. It goes like this. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness. Yea, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, for you live Psalm 23, and you know the secret of sanctuary. So as one person to another, I want to encourage you to risk going up that path. Even if you've been afraid, even if you're uncertain, even if you're ashamed, even if you're guilty, even if you're angry, even if you have hatred in your heart. Take it all with you. Walk up to the pool, bend down, and put your fingers across it, and let the healing begin.